Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
While we go into our discussion, we are now able to remove our mask for this
Thank you.
particular segment, as we have been antigen tested and vaccinated as well against COVID-19. Let's just jump right into it to give us a clear understanding. I mentioned at the top of the program where the future of the UK was already uncertain before the Queen had passed away in regards to the new Prime Minister taking a role in Liz Truss, as well as Brexit even long before that. What is the outlook of the UK now going forward after her passing, Reza?
Queen Elizabeth II, she has been there for 70 years.
Yes. Correct.
She is people's mother, people's grandmother, people's great-grandmothers. She's there. She's the icon of the nation. People can feel, she's not there any longer. But the tears of the people remain because they cannot forget her. And now people, they have king, a new king, King Charles III. This is a surprise for some people because for the rest of their life they've been singing, God save our gracious queen. And all of a sudden, oh, the king is there.
Right.
And then send her victorious, difficult to be changed to send him victorious, happy and glorious. So this is one of the mood happening in UK and also in the in the Commonwealth of Nations. That's the one. And secondly, with regard to the pictures in public spaces, big pictures of King Charles are there now, along with the Queen Camilla Parker Bowles.
Yeah.
And then the pound sterling need to be reprinted. I have heard 2.5 billion of money needs to be reprinted, need to be printed. And then stamps, with Charles' names.
Right.
And then the difficult thing is to change the people's mind,
Of course.
because in their mind, Charles is someone.
Right.
Charles is someone with stories coming from the British tabloids.
That's true.
So this is a great challenge for Charles to prove himself. He has been trained for that long. If we recall the age of the Queen's coffin, it's 30 years of age. Maybe Charles should have asked, why the nation make me king at the age of 73?
Correct.
Why not earlier? So this is a heaps of challenge. But Britons, at one stage of their history, they said, we ruled the waves. And then I think the spirit of confidence is still there in the eyes of the Buckingham and also in the eyes of the British elite, in the eyes of the people. We will come back.
Now, regarding to the King Charles III itself, what's your thoughts and also reaction to King Charles III itself? Do you think he will succeed in so little time of succeeding or to making the people
Winning
happy
over
and
the
trusting,
people, right?
winning them,
Yeah.
right?
Well, for long, he has been wrongly treated by the media. Media always think bad news are good news. So he was the prince, but people always see him at the lower grade compared to Princess Diana and Princess Diana, the king and the queen of England. But now people have to accept the fact that now they have a king.
Right.
And for this particular case, I think King Charles III must think big, start small, and move fast.
Oh, think big, start
Think
small,
big.
and move fast.
Yes,
That's
he
good.
needs to restore
Right.
his name. He needs to increase the credibility of the palace.
Right.
He needs to make himself real in the heart of mind of the British and also the Commonwealth of
Right.
Nations. A lot of things to be done by him. Among other, we hardly hear in this world, we hardly hear his training in Cambridge,
Right.
his study in Cambridge. And then also his training in the Navy, his training in the Air Force. And then his experiences when the country was in difficulties, for example, during the Falkland War, during the recession, during the Asian financial crisis, which had also affected Britain. And then also Britain during the Cold War, the country during the post-Cold War. I think this is something people need to better hear of Charles.
Well, these are all good things you mentioned when at the time he was prince was already doing. In fact, I've also read that even back in the 90s, he was always very aware of climate change and already trying to instill programs at that time. Why do you think the media had always been kind of tough on Charles?
Well, if we see the polls here, the poll surveys here, his ranking was always behind Lady Diana.
Right.
And then even behind his own son, his two sons.
Right.
So this is, we cannot avoid the fact that there is problem with his charisma. He has been waiting for this position for long. And ideally, he should be king at the age of 45 or lower than 50 when he was young, bright, handsome, and full of energy.
Could it be the fact as well, though, Pak Reza, that Princess Diana is basically immortalized since she passed away, and the sons are kind of a reflection of Princess Diana? Is that plays a factor in it as well? Does that?
We cannot avoid the fact here that Lady Diana, she was very beautiful. She was also charismatic, and she was the media darling. Wherever she goes, the media tend to focus on her.
Correct.
And then to the queen. They always try to see, okay, in the big picture, the queen is there. But in the smaller pictures, Diana is there.
Right.
And Diana said, she knew when they were in the divorce with Charles. And the marriage itself was so tense for Diana.
Yeah.
Right.
She wrongly mentioned the husband's name.
Right.
The true name of Charles is Charles Philip Arthur George. But on that wedding, she called her husband Philip Charles Arthur George.
Remember that, yeah.
Yes. And then, anyhow, she's the media darling. She's a humble person, a teacher. And then, thanks God, yeah, her beauty, her charisma goes to the children. So they are aristocratic, but they inherit the beauty of their mom. So I think if we go to the survey, I think the percentage people love the new Prince of Wales is higher than
I
the
believe.
king.
Right.
There's always
That's
been
true.
that kind of relatability when it came to Diana and her son.
Of course, because in the social media, people are still talking about late Princess Diana itself, right? I mean, always comparing to Queen Consort Camilla itself. Now, as you mentioned, that this is going to be, one of the toughest roads for King Charles III itself, compared to have a, spouse, Queen Camilla Consort itself. You know, people are still comparing to Diana itself. So, do you think in Charles' way of becoming a king for the people, is it going to be smooth for Prince Charles to actually tackle everything?
King Charles.
Yes, King Charles.
You're not used to it,
King
right?
Charles,
I know, I do
right.
the same thing.
No, I also do the same thing. Well, Diana, Princess Diana is the queen of people's heart.
Of course.
This is something there since the beginning.
Yeah.
She has stolen the heart and mind of the people, not only the people in UK, but in the whole Commonwealth. Please recall when Prince Charles and Princess Diana were in Indonesia, the media focused too much on Princess Diana. And then, I think for some time in the future, Diana is incomparable to anybody.
Right.
So maybe this is the great challenge of Prince Charles. So in this case, rather than putting the Queen forward, I think King Charles understand that the time is not on his side. He's 73, but he has to. Prince of Wales is there.
Yes.
And then the younger brother of Prince of Wales is there. I think he needs to do a lot of combination. King inside the country, but he will permit the royals to travel overseas to do state functions.
Diplomatic work as well.
Diplomatic works, correct.
You mentioned the Commonwealth countries, Pak Reza. There are, not all Commonwealth countries have aligned with the king. In fact, there are some that have, I guess, more or less rejected this new change at the head of the monarch. What are some of the Commonwealth countries that have taken this particular stance? And do you think this will go further than just stating a rejection against it? Will there be any changes made? What do you think will happen?
I think the greatest challenge is in Charles, in the king.
Okay.
Can he commit himself? Can he prove himself? Can he affiliate himself with all members of the Commonwealth? In this case, he has challenges. Among others, challenges of credibility. He needs to expose himself to the world. And then at the same time, he needs to show that he can work in tandem with the new Prime Minister. People have not witnessed their role, for example. What do they think on the ongoing war in Russia and Ukraine? What happened with the next energy shortcut? Winter is coming. And what will happen with the rest of the Commonwealth? What happened with the ongoing recession in the United Kingdom? So this is something he needs to convey. This situation reminds me to Winston Churchill in early 1950s. During that time, from sometime until 1945, the economy was so bad following the end of the Cold War.
Correct.
And then Churchill worked in tandem with the King of England at the time. And also, it was a training ground for Queen Elizabeth II before she became the Queen.
Right.
I think at this very moment, Charles needs to believe that the time is not good, but policy must be good.
Right.
Okay.
So in this case, I believe that he will learn from his mother. His mother was close to the social life of the people.
Very much.
In this case, the keywords in his mind should be: which hospitals do I need to visit? Which schools do I need to visit?
Right.
And then which foundations do I need to support? I think he leads a lot of foundations.
Definitely. We do know that about it. What do we know about his relationship with Liz Truss? And whether or not their views are aligned?
I think distrust is there,
Right.
but I think as a king, he leads morally
I
the
see.
British, and he can align himself with the Church of England.
Okay.
And he can rely on the bureaucracy of the palace. And the most valuable one is the Prince of Wales, the new Prince of Wales.
Right.
He should give more room for Prince of Wales to maneuver inside the country and outside the country, and this should be with his supervision.
Do you think he will do so to his son, to the Prince of Wales?
Well, in this case, Charles is 73.
Yeah.
I think
You need to make preparations, basically.
Yes, correct. Makes preparation and prepare.
Now, but as you mentioned about the Commonwealth countries
Yes.
just before, now how would you assess the response of the Commonwealth countries as, that rejects or rejected the king itself, King Charles III itself? So are there Commonwealth countries that actually wants to change their status, maybe?
Well, if we see the political system inside the Commonwealth countries, there are republics.
Right.
There are republics. There are also royals. Also, there are also parliamentary democracy. So in this case, political systems are dynamics. And then I know that some countries wanted to become republic, like Australia, Canada, but it doesn't mean that once a country becomes a republic, they will run away from the British sphere. This is their history. The Commonwealth of Nations is so huge. They have around 2.5 billion people, and around 40% are under the demographic bonus status. Means this is something Charles needs to cultivate, to win the trust of the youngsters, to win the trust of they who adore his mother.
Right.
And in this case, the new job description will be seen between he himself, and when he delegates some of the royal functions to the Prince of to the Prince of Wales. I think logically this is to be done by a king who is 73 years of age, who has so many problems, but he needs to think big,
Right.
start small, and move fast.
Right. And he would have to have a big heart in order to almost immediately delegate a lot of these responsibilities to his son, basically,
yes.
as well. I mean, I grew up in a Commonwealth country in Canada, and I do believe that we always felt that somewhat attached to the monarch, even though we had our own government, we had our own prime minister, but the Queen was on all our money as well. So there is going to be, you know, it would be very tough to detach ourselves from the monarch. Now, speaking of the monarch itself, in this day and age, you mentioned youngsters. I mean, a lot of people who had just known nothing but the Queen, even at an older age. How relevant is the monarchy now as opposed to when the earlier years when the Queen was on the throne as opposed to now? Do a lot of people still believe in the monarchy? I mean, we had in our report there has been a decline in the popularity of the monarch as a whole.
Correct. Monarchs are in decline, especially if we go to Belgium, to Germany, to France. There are royals, but they are not. They are experiencing less function in the state. But if we see the rest of the world, monarchs are there in Thailand.
Okay.
Monarchs also are there in Japan. Monarchs are there in Malaysia, and now in Britain. The Britain is the most popular one, yeah,
Sure.
because all the living of inside the Buckingham Palace is under public exposure. Well, in this case, the question needs to be asked to the monarch themselves. Do they want to remain relevant or not? If they want to remain relevant, they need to become the monarch, not only not only the castle in the air,
Right.
but the monarch in the eyes of the people. In this case, the monarch needs to prove themselves that in terms of management, they work based on the governance principles,
Okay.
and then based on culture. They should prove themselves to be to represent the civilization of the British, and they also need to be the source of inspiration for the whole nation. We have not seen this yet. Yeah? We are about to see. Yeah? But in this case, the new king should do something. For example, we do not know yet when he will receive the new prime minister. We do not know yet. Can he adjust himself? Can he adjust himself as a king? Because earlier on, people see this is the protocol operated in the Buckingham Palace, and prime ministers will need to adjust. For example, how to sit, how to stand, how to walk, how to touch the coffee and so on, cutleries, and when to write, and what subjects to be spoken and what subjects not to be spoken. I think Prince Charles is still in a cultural shock, I think. I hope he can deal with it well, because he has had enough experience in this international protocol, kingdom protocol, other kind of royal protocol, and he represented the Queen on many international events, diplomatic events, also events under the banner of Commonwealth of Nations. I think he's ready for that, and he has sufficient emotional quotient, intelligent quotient, managerial quotient, spiritual quotient. He has, but now the problem is he needs to prove all his capabilities at the age of 73, not 37.
Yes,
Yeah,
execution
that's a tough
is
age,
key.
yeah.
Yeah, very interesting to see how the people will accept him, and we're very much looking forward to see the progress that he will make going forward as well. Pareza, it's always a great pleasure to have you here, especially to discuss topics such as this.
We love having you here, Pareza. We can learn, so much with, limited time. So thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Stay healthy, stay safe.
Stay
Drop by anytime.